I set the champagne flute down on the marble table and watched the bubbles rise. Maria, the security guard, had just pulled me aside and whispered something that made my blood run cold. I walked back to where my son Brandon was waiting, forcing a smile, and did something I never thought I'd do. I switched our glasses. Let me back up. 3 months ago, I sold my tech company. After 40 years of building it from my garage to a multinational operation, I was finally done. The sale brought in $50 million, and I was ready to retire. My wife Sarah had passed away 5 years earlier, and she'd always said, "Marcus, don't let money ruin our family." I thought about those words a lot as I planned how to divide the estate. I have 3 children. Brandon is the oldest at 38. Then there's Sophia, who's a cardiac surgeon in Boston, and James, an aerospace engineer working in Singapore. I'd always planned to split everything equally, a third each. Fair and simple. But Brandon had been struggling. 10 years ago, he'd started a software company. I'd invested $2 million to help him launch it. The company failed within 18 months. He lost everything, including his marriage. His wife, Jennifer, left him, took their daughter across the country, and Brandon spiraled. He moved back to Seattle, took odd jobs, and for a while, I worried he might never recover. Last year, he seemed better. He'd started a consulting business with a partner named Derek Chen. No relation to me, despite sharing a last name. Brandon said they were helping small businesses with digital transformation. He seemed energetic again, excited about the future. I was relieved. A father wants to see his children succeed on their own terms. 2 weeks ago, Brandon called me. "Dad, I want to throw you a retirement party. Something small, just us, before you fly out to Singapore to see James. You're always doing things for us. Let me do this for you." I was touched. "Brandon, you don't have to. I want to. There's a private lounge at the airport, the Signature Club. I've arranged everything. We'll celebrate properly before your red-eye flight." I agreed. It felt good to hear enthusiasm in his voice. The party was set for 8 p.m. on a Thursday. My flight to Singapore was at 11. I'd be spending 2 weeks with James, seeing his new house, meeting his fiancé's family. Sophia couldn't make the party because she was in surgery, but she'd sent a beautiful card that morning. "Dad, you deserve this rest. We love you." I arrived at the airport early and checked my bags. The Signature Club was on the upper level, past security, in a quiet wing most travelers never noticed. It was elegant. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the runway, leather chairs, soft lighting. Brandon had reserved a private corner with a table set for 2. He was already there when I arrived, wearing a suit. That surprised me. Brandon usually dressed casually, jeans and a polo shirt. But tonight he looked polished, professional. His business partner Derek was with him, a thin man in his 40s with wire-rimmed glasses and a briefcase. "Dad," Brandon stood and hugged me. "You made it." "Of course. This is nice, son. Really nice." Derek extended his hand. "Mr. Chen, pleasure to meet you. Brandon's told me so much about you." "Call me Marcus." I shook his hand. His grip was weak, almost limp. "Derek's been helping me with some consulting work," Brandon said. "I invited him because, well, he's been a good friend during a tough time." "I appreciate that," I said to Derek. "Brandon's lucky to have good people around him." Derek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We should sit. I brought champagne to celebrate." The table had 3 glasses and an expensive-looking bottle of Dom Perignon in an ice bucket. Brandon gestured for me to sit at the head of the small table, and he took the chair to my right. Derek sat across from him, setting his briefcase on the floor beside his chair. "This is too much," I said, looking at the champagne. "Nothing's too much for you, Dad. You've worked your whole life. You deserve to celebrate." Derek poured 3 glasses. The champagne caught the light, golden and elegant. He handed me mine first, then Brandon's, then took his own. Brandon raised his glass. "To Dad. To 40 years of hard work, to integrity, and to the legacy you've built. May your retirement be everything you've dreamed of." I was moved. "Thank you, son. That means a lot." We clinked glasses. I brought mine to my lips, but before I could drink, a woman's voice spoke quietly behind me. "Excuse me, Mr. Chen?" I turned. It was Maria Torres, one of the security guards I'd seen earlier at the checkpoint. She was in her early 50s, with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor that suggested competence. Her uniform was crisp, and she wore a small badge that identified her as a supervisor. Yes? She leaned down slightly, her voice low. Sir, I need to speak with you privately. It's important. Brandon's face tightened. We're in the middle of something here. Maria didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on me. It will only take a moment, please. Something in her tone made me stand. Excuse me, gentlemen. I'll be right back. Brandon started to protest, but I was already following Maria to a spot near the windows, out of earshot. What is it? I asked. Maria's expression was serious. Sir, I need you to listen carefully and trust me. I'm a former Seattle PD detective. I left the force 3 years ago after my husband died. Took this job because it's quieter, but I still notice things. What did you notice? Your son's partner, Derek. When you were checking in downstairs, I saw him in the pharmacy. He was purchasing something and acting nervous, kept looking around. Then I saw him again up here, and I recognized him from a case I worked 5 years ago. He was questioned in a fraud investigation involving elderly victims. Nothing stuck, but I remember his face. My stomach tightened. What are you saying? 10 minutes ago, I walked past your table on a routine patrol. Derek was at the table alone. Your son was in the restroom. I saw Derek pull a small vial from his pocket and pour something into one of the champagne glasses. Then he rearranged them when your son came back. I felt dizzy. You're sure? Positive. I've been doing this too long to mistake what I saw. I don't know which glass he tampered with, but I needed to warn you before anyone drank. Why didn't you stop him right then? No immediate crime was being committed. If I'd intervened without proof, he could have dumped the vial, and you'd all think I was paranoid, but I couldn't let you drink without knowing. I looked back at the table. Brandon and Derek were talking, their heads close together. Brandon looked anxious, checking his watch. What should I do? My voice sounded weak, even to myself. Go back. Act normal. Don't drink. I'll have airport police here in 5 minutes, but I need a reason to search them. If you can get Derek to admit something, or if we can test the champagne, we'll have cause. And if Brandon's involved? Maria's face softened. I'm sorry, but you need to consider that possibility. A son wouldn't normally bring a known fraud suspect to his father's retirement party. I felt like I'd been punched. He's my son. I know, and maybe he's being manipulated. But you need to protect yourself first. I nodded slowly. Okay, give me 5 minutes. I walked back to the table. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to stay calm. Brandon looked up, his expression tight. Everything okay? Fine. Just a question about my flight. I sat down and picked up my champagne glass. My hand shook slightly. Derek was watching me closely. Are you feeling all right, Marcus? You look pale. Just tired. Long day. I set the glass down without drinking. Actually, I need to use the restroom myself. Age, you know. Everything takes longer. I stood and walked toward the restroom hallway. Once I was out of sight, I ducked behind a partition and waited, watching through a gap in the decorative screen. Brandon and Derek's voices carried in the quiet lounge. Why didn't he drink? Brandon sounded stressed. Relax. He will. Just give him time. We don't have time. His flight leaves in 2 hours. If he gets on that plane before signing, this whole thing falls apart. He'll sign. Once the sedative kicks in, he'll be compliant. Then we'll tell him he had too much champagne, that he needs to rest. You'll suggest he sign the revised estate documents now, before he's too tired. He trusts you. What if he doesn't drink enough? The dosage is strong. Even a few sips will make him drowsy and suggestible. We'll have him sign, get it notarized by my guy downstairs, and by tomorrow you'll have power of attorney. Once you control the assets, we split them according to our agreement. 60-40. You said 50-50. Derek's voice hardened. 60-40. I'm taking the risk here. Your father knows you failed before. If this doesn't work, I'm the one holding the bag. This is wrong. Brandon's voice cracked. He's my father. Your father who gave you $2 million and watched you fail. Your father who's splitting $50 million 3 ways when you're the one who needs it. Your sisters are fine. You're drowning. This is survival, Brandon. There was silence. Then Brandon spoke. Quieter. What if he suspects something? He won't. Old men trust their sons. It's biology. I'd heard enough. I walked back around the partition, approaching the table normally. Both men looked up, guilty expressions quickly masked. Sorry about that, I said cheerfully. I sat down and picked up my champagne glass again. Where were we? To your retirement, Derek said, raising his glass. Brandon raised his too, but his hand trembled. I brought the glass to my lips and pretended to sip. The champagne touched my tongue, and I swallowed air instead, then set the glass down. Delicious. Derek smiled. Only the best. Actually, I said, I'm realizing I need to show you both something. I brought copies of my estate documents. I thought you might like to see them, Brandon. You're named as executor, along with your sisters. Brandon's eyes widened. You have them here? In my carry-on. Let me grab it. I stood and walked toward where I'd left my bag near the entrance. Maria was waiting there with 2 airport police officers. She nodded at me. I retrieved my bag and returned to the table. The officers followed at a distance, positioning themselves near the exits. Here, I said, pulling out a folder. I set it on the table and opened it. Inside were the real estate documents showing the 3-way split. I wanted you to know that everything's in order. Equal shares for each of you. Brandon stared at the papers. His face went white. Derek, however, looked confused. That's generous, Marcus. Brandon's lucky to have a father who trusts him, I interrupted. Yes, I do trust him. That's why I'm confused about something. What? Derek's voice was careful. Why would you bring a vial of sedative to my retirement party and pour it into my champagne? The table went silent. Derek's face froze. Brandon made a strangled sound. I don't know what you're talking about, Derek said. I think you do. I also think Brandon might not have fully understood what you were planning. Am I right, son? Brandon's eyes filled with tears. Dad, Don't say anything, Derek snapped. He's fishing. Maria stepped forward, the 2 officers with her. Mr. Chen, is there a problem? Yes. This man tampered with my drink. I'd like the champagne tested, and I'd like him searched for the vial I believe he's still carrying. Derek stood abruptly. This is harassment. I'm leaving. One of the officers blocked his path. Sir, please remain seated. We have reasonable suspicion based on witness testimony. You're being detained for questioning. Witness testimony? Who? Derek looked around wildly. Maria showed her badge. I witnessed you tampering with the glass. I'm a former detective, and my testimony is credible. You're going to be searched. If you're carrying what I think you're carrying, you'll be arrested. Derek's face went from red to gray. He sat down slowly. The officers searched him. In his jacket pocket, they found a small prescription vial labeled with someone else's name. The medication was temazepam, a powerful sedative. That's not mine, Derek said. I'm holding it for a friend. A friend whose name matches a deceased person from 2019, Maria said. I checked the prescription number while you were talking. It's fraudulent. The officers handcuffed Derek. One of them radioed for backup, while the other began reading him his rights. I turned to Brandon. My son was crying, his face in his hands. Brandon, I said quietly, look at me. He did. His eyes were red, desperate. Did you know he was going to drug me? Brandon shook his head. Not at first. He said we were just going to convince you to sign papers giving me a larger share because I needed it more. He said it was fair, that you'd understand. But then tonight, he showed me the vial. He said it was just to make you relaxed, that you'd sleep on the plane and wake up fine. And you believed him? I wanted to believe him. Brandon's voice broke. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm drowning. I owe people money. The consulting business was a lie. Derek and I were running a scam, convincing small business owners to invest in fake digital upgrades. We'd take their money and disappear. But we got caught. There's a lawsuit. I owe $300,000 I don't have. Why didn't you come to me? Because I already failed once. You gave me $2 million, and I lost it all. I couldn't face you again. I couldn't admit I'd screwed up worse this time. So, you were going to drug me and steal my estate? Not steal, just get my share early. And maybe a little more. Derek said we'd split it, that I'd pay off my debts, and no one would get hurt. No one would get hurt? My voice rose. Brandon, if I'd signed those papers under the influence of drugs, it would be fraud. You'd go to prison. And if something had gone wrong with the sedative, if I'd had a reaction, I could have died. I know. I know. He was sobbing now. I didn't think it through. I just saw a way out, and I took it. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. The second pair of officers arrived and took Derek away. He was shouting about lawyers and false arrest, but no one paid attention. Maria approached me. Mr. Chen, we'll need your statement. The champagne will be tested as evidence. Are you pressing charges against both men? I looked at Brandon. He looked like a child again, small and frightened. I thought about Sarah, about what she would want. Against Derek, yes, full charges. But my son, I paused. I need to think about that. Dad, please, Brandon whispered. I'll do anything. I'll make it right. How? The word came out harsher than I intended. How do you make right trying to drug your own father? He had no answer. Maria waited patiently. Finally, I said, I want to speak to Brandon privately before I decide. She nodded. We can arrange that, but he'll need to come to the station for questioning regardless. I understand. The officers took statements from all of us. The lounge had emptied. Other guests moved away by security. It was just Brandon and me at the table, waiting. Tell me about the debt, I said. All of it. Brandon explained everything. The fake consulting business, the lawsuit, the threats from the people he'd scammed, $300,000 in damages, plus legal fees. If he didn't pay, he'd be bankrupt and possibly face criminal charges separate from tonight's incident. And Derek promised to help you? He said he knew how to work these situations. He said we just needed capital, and once you signed over power of attorney, we'd have access to the estate. He'd help me settle everything quietly, by stealing from me. Yes, Brandon looked at the table. I know how it sounds. I know what I am. What are you? A failure. A coward. A terrible son. I let the words sit there. Then I said, You're also someone who called me Dad 5 minutes before trying to poison me. You're someone capable of both love and desperation. The question is, which one is stronger? Brandon looked up. I don't know anymore. Then we need to find out. I called Sophia. It was late in Boston, but she answered immediately. Dad? What's wrong? I explained everything. She listened in silence, then said, Oh my God, is he insane? He's desperate. There's a difference. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I need you to know what happened in case something else happens. Dad, you need to press charges. He tried to drug you. He's your brother, and you're my father. What he did is unforgivable. Maybe. But I keep thinking about what your mother would say. Sophia was quiet. Then, softly, she'd say that love without accountability is enabling. She'd want you to help him, but not by letting him off the hook. You sound like her. I hope so. I hung up and called James. He had the same reaction, anger mixed with disbelief. But he ended by saying, Dad, whatever you decide, I support you, but don't let him hurt you again. I won't. At the police station, I gave my full statement. Derek was being held on multiple charges: assault, fraud, possession of controlled substances. The case against him was solid. For Brandon, I made a decision. I'm not pressing charges, I told the detective, but I have conditions. The detective looked skeptical. Sir, attempting to administer drugs without consent is serious. I know, but he's my son and he was manipulated by Derek. I want to handle this within the family. That's your right, but we'll note this incident in case anything happens in the future. I understand. I met with Brandon in a conference room. He looked exhausted, defeated. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm not pressing charges, but you're going to do exactly what I say, and if you deviate even slightly, I will press charges and you'll go to prison. Understood? Yes. First, you're going to rehab. Not for drugs, but for whatever led you to make these choices. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I'll pay for it, but you'll commit to 6 months minimum. Okay. Second, you're going to work with a lawyer I'll hire to settle your debts. We'll pay the $300,000, but you'll pay me back over time. with interest. I want a contract, legally binding. I'll sign anything. Third, you're going to get a real job, not consulting, not entrepreneurship. A steady job where you punch a clock and earn a paycheck. I don't care what it is, but you'll work for at least 2 years before you try any business ventures again. Brandon nodded, tears streaming down his face. Fourth, your share of the estate is being held in a trust. You'll get an allowance, enough to live on, but you won't have access to the principal until you've proven you can handle it. That might take 5 years. It might take 10. We'll see. That's fair. And finally, you're going to write letters to Sophia and James, explaining what you did and apologizing. You'll face them and accept whatever they say. If they don't forgive you, you'll live with that. Dad, I'm not done. You're also going to volunteer at a nonprofit. I'm thinking a financial literacy program for low-income families. You're going to teach people how to manage money, because apparently you need to learn it yourself. 20 hours a week for 2 years. Brandon was crying openly now. Thank you. Thank you, Dad. I'll do all of it. I promise. Don't promise. Just do it. Because if you fail again, I won't be there to catch you. This is your last chance. I know. I stood to leave, but then I turned back. Brandon, I love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean tolerating betrayal. It means holding you to a higher standard, because I know you're capable of it. Your mother believed you could be better. I'm going to honor that belief. But you have to meet me halfway. I will, Dad. I swear. I left the station and went back to the airport. My flight had long since departed, but I rebooked for the next evening. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, but there was one more thing I needed to do. I found Maria Torres finishing her shift. She was in the security office, writing reports. Miss Torres, I said from the doorway. She looked up. Mr. Chen, how did it go? Can we talk? We sat in a quiet corner of the office. I explained my decision about Brandon, the conditions I'd set. She listened, then said, That's generous. I hope he deserves it. So do I. But I wanted to thank you. If you hadn't noticed Derek, if you hadn't warned me, things could have ended very differently. It's my job. No, it's more than that. You could have ignored it, figured it wasn't your business, but you didn't. You trusted your instincts, and you acted. That takes courage. She shrugged. Once a detective, always a detective, I guess. Why did you leave the force? She hesitated, then said, My husband was a firefighter. He died in a warehouse fire 3 years ago. After that, I couldn't focus. Every case felt too heavy, too personal. I needed something quieter, something where I could still help people, but without carrying the weight of every tragedy. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. He would have liked tonight, actually. He always said the best part of the job was the times you could prevent something bad, not just respond to it. He sounds like a good man. He was. I reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope. I want to give you something. Mr. Chen, that's not necessary. Please, let me finish. I handed her the envelope. Inside is a check for $100,000. I want you to use it however you need. Pay off debts, take a vacation, start a college fund. Whatever brings you peace. Maria stared at the envelope. I can't accept this. You can and you will. You saved my life tonight, Maria. Not just from the drugs, but from making a terrible mistake. If I'd drunk that champagne and signed those papers, my son would be in prison right now and my family would be destroyed. You prevented that. This is a small token of my gratitude. It's too much. It's not enough, but it's what I can offer. I stood. There's one more thing. I'm going to need a head of security for my family office. Someone I can trust, someone with good instincts. It pays $200,000 a year, plus benefits. You'd oversee security for my properties, vet people I work with, basically make sure nothing like tonight ever happens again. Interested? Maria's eyes widened. Are you serious? Completely. Think about it. You don't have to answer now. But I meant what I said. I need people I can trust, and I trust you. She looked at the envelope, then at me. Mr. Chen, I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it. That's all I ask. I will, and thank you. This is going to change my life. You changed mine. Seems like a fair trade. I left the airport and went to a hotel. The next day, I met with my lawyers and restructured the estate exactly as I'd told Brandon. Sophia and James would get their shares outright. Brandon's would be in a trust, managed by a board that included all three of us. I also set up a scholarship fund in Sarah's name, focused on helping people who'd failed in business to get back on their feet. Brandon would be its first recipient, in a way, though he'd have to work for it. A week later, I flew to Singapore. James picked me up at the airport, and as we drove to his house, he said, "Dad, I've been thinking about what happened." "Yeah? I'm angry at Brandon. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him. But I'm proud of you for how you handled it." "I'm not sure I handled it right. Maybe I was too soft." Mom wouldn't think so. She always said the hardest thing about love is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. You're holding on, but you're not being stupid about it. I hope you're right. And Dad, I'm glad you're okay. When Sophia called me and told me what happened, I thought I might have lost you. You didn't, and you won't. Not for a long time, if I can help it. We drove in comfortable silence after that, the Singapore skyline glittering in the distance. 3 months later, I got an email from Brandon. He was in therapy, working at a nonprofit, and living in a small apartment he could afford. The email was short. "I'm doing the work, Dad. It's hard, but I'm doing it. Thank you for believing I could." I wrote back, "I believe because you're my son, but prove it to yourself, not to me. That's what matters." Maria Torres accepted the job. She's been with me for 6 months now, and she's everything I hoped she'd be. Last month, she helped me vet a new financial advisor, and her background check caught discrepancies that could have cost me millions. She's also become a friend, someone I can talk to about the weight of family and responsibility. As for Derek Chen, he's awaiting trial. The prosecutors have a strong case, and it looks like he'll spend several years in prison. I don't feel sorry for him. He preyed on people's trust, and he nearly destroyed my family. But mostly, I think about that night in the airport lounge. How close I came to drinking that champagne. How one person's vigilance changed everything. How the line between tragedy and redemption can be as thin as a whispered warning from a stranger who chose to care. I'm 70 now, officially retired, and I've spent this past year rebuilding trust with my children. Sophia and I have grown closer. She calls twice a week, and we talk about everything from medicine to memories of her mother. James and his fiancée visited last month, and we spent 2 weeks sailing around the San Juan Islands. And Brandon? He's still working, still in therapy, still paying back his debt. We talk once a month, and it's strained, but it's honest. He knows he has a long road ahead. So do I. But I believe in second chances. I believe people can change if they're held accountable and given the support they need. I believe that family, even broken family, is worth fighting for. And I believe that sometimes, when you're about to make the worst mistake of your life, the universe sends you a guardian in a security uniform who notices what others miss. That's not luck. That's grace. And I'll spend the rest of my life being grateful for it.